Majestic Major, a model aircraft project. Majestic Major is the name of the model, and here's one that I had a few years ago. And now I have another one. It needs a little bit of work, it's a different colour, and it's built differently. This is a vintage model that they used to fly a long time ago when radio control was in its infancy. And as you can clearly see, it has quite a large wingspan. The more observant viewers watching my videos will notice that this is not a steam engine. My hobby turned into a business is called Main Steam Models. And although the name confuses some people, and they pronounce it mainstream, if you look carefully it's main steam. And I called it that because the videos are about mainly steam models. I mainly repair steam models, but I do undertake other model repair jobs. I'm quite picky as to what I take on. I do not, for instance, repair steam boilers, because I am not qualified to certify them. And besides, boiler smithing needs a completely different set of skills. Back to this beautiful Ben Buckle Majestic Major model aeroplane. Here's a quick look down the wings. The first thing I did was to remove some horrible stick-on lines down the wings. This clip is after I removed them. And here in this previous clip is before I peeled off the stick-on stripes. I may fit some more, but they will be quite a lot thinner. Every bit of the blue colour you can see is a covering called Solartex that you iron on. Here's my friend Rob holding the tail. You can see how big it is. He's the current owner of the red and yellow Majestic Major at the front of the video. I've already started work on this. I couldn't wait to remove the electric motor. For me, the advantage of these vintage style model aircraft is that you can stick a really nice 4-stroke model aircraft engine in the front of it and you can see it clearly. I could cut out the cowl, but then most of the interesting bits would be missing. When aeroplanes that look like this were the norm, back in those days model aircraft engines were very heavy, so the aircraft needed to have a short nose to balance them. By the look of it, this aircraft was built to be internal combustion engine powered. By the state of this wooden plate, I think this may have been retrofitted in order to mount an electric motor. I'm not really sure about that, but it's gone forever now, along with the motor. This is quite a powerful brushless motor, but it doesn't look very good. I've flown model aircraft for many years, and I like them to have engines in the front. It's a vintage style plane, so I'm going to fit a vintage style engine. This is an OS FS60 4-stroke engine. Its capacity is 10 cc's. It's not very powerful because it's an old design, but it's just right for this plane. It's a great looking thing with its exposed push rods and valve rockers. This one is quite an early version with the machined carburettor. In the later models the carburettor was a machine casting. This engine looks good from every position. I've always liked them and I have a couple of them. When I used to fly radio controlled planes regularly, I moved on to laser engines which were much more powerful, but maybe not quite as pretty. When I sit this engine in the approximate position in the front of the aeroplane, you can see what it's going to look like. It will be mounted higher than this on a metal plate. About in this position, I think. It's Newton's third law of motion that states that every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. When it's fitted with a propeller and running, looking at it from the back, the engine rotates in a clockwise direction. So the aeroplane is always trying to tilt to the left. You can correct this by putting some trim in the rudder to keep it straight, but that causes drag. A simple way to correct this problem is to make it so the engine points to the right. Not much, just a few degrees, and this will stop the plane from wanting to turn left all the time. This equal and opposite reaction is directly proportional to the amount of power the engine's putting out at any given time. If you mount the engine perfectly straight, when you throttle up, the engine will always try to turn left. So as I mentioned, you can trim it on the rudder, but then when you throttle back, it will turn right. That's it about engine thrust lines. I'd like to move on to what I'm about to do. I'm going to reinforce the inside of the nose of the aeroplane using some of this stuff. This is the waterproof version of JB Weld and it will do the job perfectly. Reinforcing the nose will be just one of the jobs I need to do. The windscreen is just a piece of celluloid glued to the plane. This was also covered in the black sticky stripe stuff. I carefully removed that, but I'm going to have to clean the residue that it left on the celluloid. That will improve its appearance. Inside the fuselage, Even though the aircraft is well built, the radio installation is diabolical. It looks like the radio was fitted as an afterthought. I am of course going to do it properly, and fit 3 servos, one for the rudder, one for the elevator and one for the throttle. I really do like the ridiculously out-of-scale wheels on these planes. The entire undercarriage is massively overscaled too. Look at the size of this wheel against my hand, and my hands are not small. The first thing I'm going to do is test the engine using this engine test stand that I've had for many years. It has a bell crank fitted at the back to put a linkage to the throttle. This part holds the tank. The engine is securely clamped in place like this. There are 2 steel pins in this clamp that fit through the engine's mounting holes, so it can't come loose. I got rid of a box full of engine mounts and tanks when I moved house, so I've just bought a new tank for this aeroplane via eBay. I'll leave you with a close-up shot of the engine, because that's it for the introduction. Stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainstream Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.